I found the glossy brochures tucked inside the medicine cabinet behind my blood pressure pills. Sunset Gardens, where your loved ones receive the care they deserve. 3 different facilities, all circled in red ink. The cheapest one had a checkmark next to it. That's when I knew my husband of 42 years wasn't researching options for his dying mother. He was researching options for me. The morning had started like any other Thursday in our Portland home. I made coffee in the kitchen where I'd prepared thousands of meals, watching the rain tap against the windows. David came downstairs at 7:30, same as always, kissed my cheek, same as always, and reached for his coffee mug. But his hand trembled slightly when he took it from me. That was new. "Sleep well?" I asked, buttering toast the way he liked it, crispy on the edges, soft in the middle. "Fine, Carol, just fine." He didn't meet my eyes. 42 years of marriage teaches you to read the spaces between words. The slight pause before fine meant it wasn't fine at all. The way he turned immediately to his phone meant he didn't want to talk. The crease between his eyebrows meant he was worried about something. Or someone. My name is Carol Henderson. I'm 64 years old, and up until 6 months ago, I thought I knew everything about my life. I taught elementary school for 35 years, retired 3 years back, and spent my days tending to the garden David and I had built together. We had no children, a choice we'd made early on, content with each other's company. Or so I thought. The changes started after David's sister Linda moved back to Portland. She'd been living in Phoenix for 20 years, divorced twice, no steady job. When she showed up on our doorstep with 3 suitcases and a story about needing a fresh start, David insisted we take her in. "Temporarily," he said. That was 8 months ago. Linda was 58, blonde from a box, with the kind of bright smile that never quite reached her eyes. She'd always been the baby of the family, used to getting her way. When we were younger, I'd watched her manipulate their mother with tears and tantrums. Now she was doing it to David. Except he couldn't see it. "You're such a saint, Carol," she'd say, watching me cook dinner for 3. "I don't know how you do it. I could never be so domestic." The way she said domestic made it sound like an insult wrapped in a compliment. At first, the changes were subtle. David started coming home later from his consulting job, even though he'd been talking about retirement for years. He'd sit in his study with the door closed, talking in low voices. When I'd knock and enter, he'd quickly minimize whatever was on his computer screen. "Just work stuff," he'd say. Nothing important. Then there were the appointments. Doctor's appointments he'd make for me without asking. "You mentioned your memory wasn't so sharp lately," he said one evening at dinner. Linda was there, nodding along sympathetically. "I never said that." "Sure you did, hun. Last week. You couldn't remember where you put your car keys. I was carrying groceries. I set them on the counter. That's not memory loss. That's being distracted." Linda reached across the table and patted my hand. "It's nothing to be ashamed of, Carol. We all get older. David's just worried about you. We both are." That's when the unease started to creep in. They were talking about me like I wasn't there, like I was already incapable of managing my own life. The doctor's appointment was with a neurologist I'd never heard of, Dr. Patterson. Young, efficient, with a practiced smile that didn't waver. "Your husband mentioned some concerns," he said, glancing at his notes. "Memory issues? Confusion? Difficulty with daily tasks?" "My husband is mistaken. I'm perfectly fine." "Of course you are." That smile again. "But let's just run a few tests to be sure. Better safe than sorry, right?" The tests were standard. Memory recall, pattern recognition, simple math problems. I aced every single one of them. Dr. Patterson seemed almost disappointed. "Well, everything looks normal," he admitted. "But cognitive decline can be subtle. I'd like to see you again in a month." David insisted on coming to that appointment, and the next one, and the one after that. Always hovering, always answering questions directed at me, always suggesting symptoms I didn't have. "She forgot our anniversary," he told Dr. Patterson during the 3rd visit. I did not. "We went to Andina, the Spanish restaurant. You ordered the paella. I had the grilled octopus. We shared a bottle of Albarino, and you complained it was too expensive. That was October 15th. David's jaw tightened. "See? She's getting defensive. That's a sign, isn't it, doctor? Aggression?" "I'm not being aggressive. I'm being accurate. but I saw the way Dr. Patterson made a note in his file, the way he exchanged a glance with David. They were building a narrative, and I was the unreliable narrator in my own story. That's when I started paying attention. Really paying attention. I noticed Linda going through the mail when she thought I wasn't looking. I noticed hushed phone conversations that stopped when I entered the room. I noticed the way they both watched me, like I was a problem they were trying to solve. And then I found the brochures. Sunset Gardens, Meadowbrook Senior Living, Evergreen Care Facility, all memory care units. All with glossy photos of smiling elderly people doing crafts and playing bingo. All with monthly costs that made my stomach turn. The cheapest one, Evergreen, was $4,200 a month. The most expensive, Sunset Gardens, was $8,500. David had checked the box next to Evergreen and written a note in the margin. Medicaid accept after 2 years. I sat on the bathroom floor for a long time, those brochures in my hands, piecing it together. Our house was paid off, worth about $700,000 in Portland's market. We had retirement savings, around $400,000 between IRAs and David's pension. Everything was in both our names, joint accounts, joint property. If I was declared incompetent, if I was put in a facility, David would have full control. He could sell the house, access all the money, and I'd be warehoused in the cheapest place he could find while he and Linda lived off everything we'd built together. The rage that filled me was cold and calculating. This was the man I'd loved for 42 years, the man I'd supported through career changes and family losses, the man who'd promised to love me in sickness and health, and he was trying to steal my life out from under me. But rage without a plan is just noise. I needed to be smart. I put the brochures back exactly where I found them. I went downstairs and made dinner like nothing had happened. Linda was on the couch watching reality TV. David was in his study. I could hear him on the phone. I know, he was saying. It's taking longer than we thought, but Patterson says if we can establish a pattern of concerning behavior. Yes, she's still resisting. She's always been stubborn. I don't know. Maybe another month or two? I stood outside his door, wooden spoon still in my hand from stirring the soup, listening to him discuss my future like I was already gone. That night, I did something I never thought I'd do. I went through David's computer while he was in the shower. I knew his password. It was our wedding date. The irony wasn't lost on me. His email told me everything. Messages to Linda going back 8 months, right when she'd moved in. "Can't believe you're finally doing this," one of Linda's emails read. "She's had control of you for too long. Time to take your life back, big brother." "Patterson says we need to document everything," David had written back. "Every time she forgets something, seems confused, gets irritated, it all helps build the case." "What if she doesn't actually have dementia?" Linda had asked. "Patterson says it doesn't matter. With enough documentation and family testimony, we can make a case for her being a danger to herself. Once she's in a facility, I'll have power of attorney. Then we sell the house, split everything. You get your cut like we discussed. 50-50, 50-50. He was selling me out for half of everything we'd built, and his sister was the one pushing him to do it. I went back further, finding emails to real estate agents about property values, to financial advisors about accessing retirement accounts, to lawyers about guardianship proceedings. This wasn't a spontaneous decision. This was a carefully orchestrated plan that had been in motion for months. The thing about Betrayal is that it clarifies everything. All the little doubts I'd had, all the times I'd second-guessed myself, all the moments I'd wondered if I was being paranoid, they all clicked into place with the sharp clarity of truth. I wasn't losing my mind. They were trying to make me look like I was. I forwarded every email to my personal account, one by one, creating a paper trail of their conspiracy. Then I cleared the sent folder and the trash. I closed the computer and went back to bed, lying beside a man I no longer knew. The next morning, I called my own lawyer, not the family lawyer David and I had used for years. A new one. Her name was Jennifer Shaw, and she specialized in elder law and financial exploitation. "I need to protect myself," I told her, sitting in her downtown office, showing her the printed emails on my phone. "My husband is trying to have me declared incompetent so he can steal our assets." Jennifer read through everything with a practiced eye. "This is elder financial abuse," she said flatly. And conspiracy to commit fraud. Do you want to press charges? I want to protect myself first. Charges can come later. Smart. She leaned back in her chair. Here's what we're going to do. Over the next 3 weeks, I followed Jennifer's instructions to the letter. First, I scheduled an appointment with my own doctor, Dr. Reeves, who I'd been seeing for 20 years. I asked for a complete cognitive assessment, explaining what was happening. She was appalled. Carol, you're one of the sharpest patients I have. Your memory is better than mine half the time. I need it documented, official, something that will hold up in court. She ran every test available. Memory, executive function, reasoning, attention span. I scored in the normal range on everything. She wrote a detailed report stating that I showed no signs of cognitive decline and was fully capable of managing my own affairs. Next, I went to a separate neurologist for a second opinion, then a psychiatrist for a psychological evaluation. 3 different specialists, all documenting that I was mentally sound. Jennifer said redundancy was key. While I was doing this, I opened my own bank account at a different bank. I started redirecting my retirement deposits there. I gathered every financial document we had, tax returns, investment statements, property deeds, and made copies, storing them in a safety deposit box Linda and David didn't know about. I also installed security cameras, small ones, the kind you can order online. One in the living room, one in the kitchen, one in David's study. I wanted to record everything, and they gave me plenty to record. She's getting worse, David told Linda one evening when they thought I was asleep. I watched from my phone as they sat in the living room, drinking wine. She gets so confused now. Can't remember simple things. What simple things? Linda asked. I don't know. I'll make something up. Patterson said the documentation doesn't have to be real, it just has to be consistent. You're sure this will work? I'm sure. Once we have her in Evergreen, we give it 6 months for everyone to forget about her, then we sell the house. You'll have enough to start over, and I'll finally be free. Free. That's what he called it. Freedom from a marriage he'd apparently found suffocating. Freedom from the woman who'd stood beside him for 4 decades. I recorded everything. The 4th week, David and Linda made their move. It happened on a Saturday morning. Linda had been out, running errands. David had been in his study all morning. Then, suddenly, they were both in the kitchen, where I was reading the newspaper. Carol, honey, we need to talk, David said, sitting down across from me. Linda stood by the door, blocking it. Not obviously, but enough that I noticed. What is it? We're worried about you. Very worried. You haven't been yourself lately. I feel fine. That's part of the problem, hon. You don't realize how much you've declined. The memory issues, the confusion, the irritability. Doctor, Patterson thinks it's best if you get some additional care. What kind of care? There's a wonderful facility called Evergreen. They specialize in memory support. We toured it last week. It's very nice. Gardens, activities, professional staff. My heart was pounding, but I kept my face neutral. You want to put me in a home. We want you to get the help you need, Linda chimed in, her voice dripping with fake concern. You're becoming a danger to yourself, Carol. What if you forget to turn off the stove? What if you get lost driving? I haven't forgotten to turn off the stove. I haven't gotten lost. You have, sweetheart, David said gently. You just don't remember it. That's the nature of your condition. They had papers ready. Transfer papers, financial authorizations, medical power of attorney. All they needed was my signature. Sign here, here, and here, Linda said, spreading them on the table. David will take care of everything. You won't have to worry about a thing. I looked at the papers. I looked at David, the man I'd loved for 42 years, who couldn't even meet my eyes. I looked at Linda, practically vibrating with greedy anticipation. No, I said quietly. David blinked. What? I said no. I'm not signing anything, and I'm not going anywhere. His face hardened. Carol, you're not thinking clearly. You're sick. You need help. I'm not sick, David. I know exactly what you're doing. I've known for weeks. The color drained from his face. Linda took a step forward. Now, Carol, you're confused again. I'm not confused. I pulled out my phone, opened the security camera app, and showed them the footage of their conversation from the night before. Their voices played clearly. The documentation doesn't have to be real. It just has to be consistent. David grabbed for my phone, but I pulled it back. That's not the only copy. It's all backed up. Everything. Every conversation, every email you sent Linda, every message to Dr. Patterson, every lie you told about me. Linda's eyes went wide. David sat back down heavily, his face gray. I've also been evaluated by 3 independent doctors, I continued. All confirm I have no cognitive issues whatsoever. I've opened my own bank accounts. I've secured copies of all our financial records. And I've hired a lawyer who specializes in elder financial abuse. The silence in that kitchen was absolute. You were going to rob me, I said, my voice steady despite the rage burning inside me. Steal everything we built together. Warehouse me in the cheapest facility you could find while you and your sister split my life like it was a garage sale. 42 years, David. 42 years I loved you. And this is how you repay that? Carol, I can explain, he started. You can explain it to my lawyer. And possibly the police. Jennifer says what you did constitutes conspiracy to commit fraud and elder abuse, both criminal offenses in Oregon. Linda found her voice. You can't prove anything. I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. I can prove everything. I have documentation going back 8 months. Every email. Every recorded conversation. Every fake symptom you tried to attribute to me. It's all time-stamped, backed up, and saved in multiple locations. David's hands were shaking. What do you want? I want a divorce. I want you and Linda out of my house by tomorrow. I want 50% of everything, which is what I'm entitled to, but I'm willing to negotiate to avoid criminal charges. Barely. My lawyer has drafted papers. You'll sign them. You'll leave. And you'll never contact me again. And if we don't? Linda asked, trying for defiant but sounding scared. Then I go to the police. And the state medical board about Dr. Patterson, who'll lose his license for participating in fraud. And the media. Because I think the local news would be very interested in a story about a man trying to have his healthy wife declared incompetent to steal her money. I stood up, gathering my phone and the papers they'd tried to make me sign. You have 24 hours to decide. I'm going to stay at a hotel tonight. When I come back tomorrow, you'll either have signed the divorce papers or I'll have filed charges. Your choice. I walked out of that kitchen, out of that house, and I didn't look back. David signed the papers. So did Linda, agreeing to leave immediately. My lawyer was ruthless in the settlement. I got the house, 60% of the retirement accounts, and David had to pay my legal fees. He moved in with Linda to a small apartment across town. Last I heard, they weren't speaking to each other anymore. Turns out when your conspiracy fails, there's not much keeping you together. Dr. Patterson is under investigation by the state medical board. 3 other families have come forward with similar stories of him diagnosing cognitive decline in healthy elderly patients at the urging of family members. His practice is closed pending the investigation. As for me, I'm still in my house. I've turned Linda's old room into a craft studio. I've started painting again, something I gave up years ago. I've joined a book club and taken up hiking. I've reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with while I was busy being the perfect wife to a man who saw me as an obstacle to his freedom. My neighbor Tom, a retired architect who'd been widowed 5 years ago, helped me install better security cameras. Then he asked if I'd like to get coffee sometime. I said yes. We've been on 7 coffee dates so far. He thinks I'm sharp, funny, and interesting. Imagine that. Sometimes people ask me if I'm angry, if I hate David for what he tried to do. The truth is, I'm not angry anymore. Anger was useful when I needed it, when it sharpened my focus and helped me fight back. But now I'm just grateful. Grateful I paid attention. Grateful I trusted my instincts. Grateful I had the strength to protect myself. I loved David for 42 years. I loved him enough to build a life with him, to support his dreams, to stand beside him through everything. But love isn't enough when someone sees you as a problem to be solved rather than a person to be cherished. I survived because I didn't ignore the signs. I survived because I documented everything. I survived because I sought help before they could trap me. And I survived because I believed in myself more than I believed in their lies. The morning after David moved out, I made coffee just for me. I sat in my kitchen, in the house that was now entirely mine, and I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. I'm 64 years old. I have, statistically, about 20 good years left. Maybe more. And I'll be damned if I'm going to spend them in evergreen care facility while someone else lives my life. Instead, I'm living it myself, every single day, on my own terms. If you take one thing from my story, let it be this: trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Document everything. Don't be afraid to ask for help, and never, ever let anyone convince you that you're too old, too confused, or too broken to fight for yourself. You're not declining. You're not confused. You're not a problem to be managed. You're a person who deserves respect, dignity, and the right to live your life on your own terms. I learned that the hard way. But I learned it in time, and that made all the difference. Thank you for listening to my story.